Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph. Steph, what's up? Good to be back. Good to see you. How you been?
Well, it's good to see you again, Miriah. I'm glad you're doing better. And just in time for this little playoff rush we got going on now. So, yeah, excited for today's show.
Yep. What's up, chat? Happy Thursday evening. We're a little later than usual, but that's because we have a Rams content creator coming on in about 10 minutes or so to join us and get all the good Rams info from her. Those that watched our first, our show before we played the Rams in week 2, it's going to be the same content creator we had on then, Alexis. So we got to hear, I went back and watched our episode today that we did with her to get, the info that she had on some players and some info she gave us then. So we'll get to compare now where things have been, how things have been going with them. And so it should be a good show. Before that, though, Steph, I want to kind of just get your feelings, your thoughts, how you're feeling right now. Obviously, it's kind of a weird going into the last game of the season, and it really doesn't mean too much, right? But to me, personally, like, I still want them to go in and kick the Rams' ass. Like, I'm not up for this, like, oh, we were resting the starters, or the starters hardly played, this game didn't mean anything, yada, yada, yada. Like, if we beat the Rams, we can sweep the division again. The Rams are too, we're resting some starters. So it's not like it's just one excuse on one side, like even if I don't care if it was all 49ers backups, like there was no reason that I wouldn't think the 49ers backups couldn't go in there and beat the Rams backups, So like I'm expecting the Rams to get their ass kicked. I'm expecting the trend to continue, that the 49ers continue just sunning them. So yeah, like obviously I was excited that we clinched, the 1 seed prior to the end of the season. I was excited the way it went down, obviously with the Cardinals, taking care of business. And thank the Cardinals, because they cooked the Eagles' ass, they cooked the Cowboys' ass. Like, shout out to them, because they couldn't hardly kick anybody's ass. They were kicking their own asses most of the time, and yet still found a way to beat both of the teams that we needed them to beat somehow. So shout out to our little bros over there. But just kind of tell me, like, sitting in almost the last game of the season, which is crazy to say. Like, I can't believe the season's already almost over. It's flown by. But, sitting here now, like, just how you feeling?
I mean, I feel great. And I get what you mean, Miriah, about like you still want to win this game. But that's why, like, even though it's meaningless, it's not really meaningless, right? Like, but in a different sense. It's meaningless in a different way than like I keep comparing it to like a preseason game just because it has that feel for it being meaningless, but that doesn't mean you're not trying to still win the game. Like preseason games, reserved players that get that opportunity, they're still trying to play. This is just honestly like a unique opportunity for guys who have been on the roster all year, who maybe haven't gotten a lot of opportunities, haven't gotten a lot of snaps, to show what they learned all season and show us who they are. And that's kind of like how I'm going into this game, and what I'm excited to see most in this game. It's not really about what are they gonna do, because I honestly feel like McVay and Shanahan holding some things close to the vest, and that's why they're probably resting some guys. But I think ultimately it's just going to be about, for the 49ers, it'll be cool for them to see what options they have at certain spots. For example, maybe we see Feliciano in this game. Not sure, because he's dealing with a back injury, but it'd be nice to see him work either of the guard spots in this one, get more extended time. We've seen him quite a bit this year. He's done well. Jason Verrett, let's see how he does, right? Like, could he be an option, going forward? Also, Sebastian Joseph Day, like, even if Eric Armstead is back for the playoffs, just does Joseph Day like deserve more snaps? Does he earn himself a heavier rotation, right? Because if he does, that'd be great because then it takes some pressure off of them keeping Eric Armstead out for longer periods of time, and he's still dealing with that foot injury. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it's a unique opportunity all around for this team to kind of see what options they have, for players to kind of showcase their talent. So it's a different week 18, but it should be a fun one for different reasons.
Yep, I agree. We're not going to get into the Rams game too much until Alexis joins us because there's no point in us just repeating the same things over and over again. So I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit. I know that you already had talked about this earlier, but this is the thing to be talking about right now. And obviously, that's the Pro Bowl. I kind of just want to get your thoughts on where let's go through the players that we think got snubbed. Any surprises that made the Pro Bowl that you thought should or shouldn't have? The number one guy for me is gonna be Brandon Ayuk. Like, I am fucking pissed that Brandon Ayuk didn't make his first Pro Bowl. And like, I think Puka obviously is doing great things for the Rams, but to have a rookie, like make it over him, like was kind of, I don't know. I just think you guys know Ayuk's my guy, and he just had a hell of a season. And the catches that, like I feel like just like he got punished because he don't get as much targets as the other guys that made the Pro Bowl do. But it's like he had an amazing season with so many less catches, like I think he was averaging like 19 yards a catch or something ridiculous like that. Which is leads the NFL, so like I just feel like he's my number one snubbed guy. There are a couple I do think as well got snubbed, but I keep trying to tell myself like the 49ers already had the most people that made it with what, 9, right? And like they have some positions, for example, I saw a lot of people are mad about Greenlaw not making it. And like, I feel like positions like that, it's like, well, do we expect that the 49ers are going to just dominate the whole linebacker category and not have linebackers in from any other teams of the NFC, right? There's like some good linebackers in the NFC as well, like the Ravens, top of my head. But it's like, so like I try to like keep going back and forth like with things like that, but still, there's some people like we ride for and we think that they should have made the Pro Bowl, and obviously they didn't. Do you have any like that you think had got snubbed?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Ayuk is an obvious one. I got to be honest, I don't get as pissed off, or I just don't have strong feelings about the Pro Bowl. Like, of course, I'm happy for the players who did get in. It sucks to a certain degree for the players that didn't make it, just because I know that Brandon Ayuk, other guys probably really want to get in, but as you mentioned, there's only 2 wide receivers from each conference that could
Right.
get into it. So that's really tough. It's really competitive. And yeah, I mean, I just think the Pro Bowl is very unserious. So I think the results and who gets to go in kind of reflects that as well.
Yeah, I know. Like, they were interviewing some of the players today, asking them about it, and like you could tell, like some of the guys, especially the Charvarius Ward, like it's his first Pro Bowl, so like he was so excited, like you could tell, like he was just like grinning from ear to ear the entire little, couple minute whatever interview it was. But he even had said like, oh, this means so much to me, like this is something I've dreamed about happening, and obviously he wants to get all pro, obviously, that's the number one thing on top of it. But like I'm just happy for the guys, the guys, especially their first times, you can tell it means a lot to them. Obviously like Juice, like he's gonna win it every freaking year, but like he's like breaking records now for holding the longest consecutive years, getting a Pro Bowl. So I think stuff like that's cool. Obviously the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl. So Besides smoking bowls, the Super Bowl is the bowl that we want. So that's where we're at. We're joined by our special guest, our Through Her Eyes guest today, Alexis. Welcome back, Alexis. How you doing?
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be back. How are you?
Doing good, doing
Good.
good. Me and Steph, before we went live, we were discussing, we were like, dang, how long has it been? And I wrote down on all my stuff that we saw you guys week 2. And she's trying to like, I think it was week 4. I'm like, well, hopefully not, because I plan to show around week 2. So
No, it's been,
but it's been a long time. So, and which is pretty cool because like the Seahawks, we only played them one game in between having to face them, so it's cool that we were able to have you on pretty much at the very beginning of the season and now get to have you on at the end of the season to kind of, compare and contrast how things went.
I
So it's good to
know.
see you.
It's good to see you.
I kind of just I had went back and watched our show from the last show that we did to get your answers on a couple things. And so before we get into, this game that is kind of, doesn't mean all too much in the broad spec of things right now. Kind of just want to get, some season questions, I guess. When I had asked you on the first show, and you had some really good answers because these guys are studs. It was about the under the radar players that we should keep an eye on. Not just specifically through that game that we were about to play, but through the season. And the offensive guys that you told us were Kyron Williams and Puka, and then the defensive guy was Byron Young. So I kind of just want to get your thoughts. Obviously, we know how some of them have done and, what's going on with them. But kind of just want to get your thoughts on, you thought that those guys, that was week 2. We had only seen one game of them so far. And you were so riding hard for Kyron Williams. You were like, this guy, we didn't see him that much week 1, but I'm telling you guys, he's going to be the guy, we didn't see him, did blah, blah, blah. And like, you were telling us, like, keep an eye on him. He's going to be the guy. And like, we've seen awesome things from him. So kind of just get your thoughts on how those 3 have done throughout the season. Have they exceeded your expectations? Where you're at with those 3 specifically?
Yeah, I mean, well, for starters, for anyone watching, I'm wearing glasses right now, and the reflection is being very weird. I don't know why. Maybe I'm the only one that sees like lines on my glasses. These are real. They're not like funny. I don't know what's going on with these, so I
Jokester
apologize. But
glasses.
yeah, those 3. So for Kyron Williams, for starters, I mean, I have always had a little bit of a bias towards him because he's from my hometown. He went to my favorite college, which is Notre Dame. So it was kind of like the St. Louis kid going to Notre Dame. I was a fan of his from day one, but I was watching him in college and I was like, this kid is really good. He was at Notre Dame making these huge plays. And, I told my co host of Downtown Rams, Jake, I said, this was years ago. I said, you might want to keep an eye on this guy. I know that I'm biased, but I think that he's kind of, he's doing really, really good, and I feel like not enough people are talking about him. So when the draft came around in 2022, I was really hoping the Rams would draft him, but I didn't think that they would. Because at the time we kind of had some other running backs. It wasn't like a huge need for us. And I just kind of grieved the fact that Kyron Williams wasn't going to be a Ram. And then they drafted him. It was one of the best moments of my football life. And he got hurt his rookie year, so we didn't really get to see him. So I had really high hopes for him coming into the season, especially because we had heard really good things about him in training camp, just from people who had been there. They're like, oh, this Kyron Williams kid is getting a lot of actually, first team reps, even though we had Cam Akers at the time. So then to start the season, Kyron came out and just was killing it. And soon enough, we end up sitting Cam Akers. It was actually week 2 against you guys that Sean McVay came out and said that Kyron Williams was going to be the starter. So his first game, kind of getting first team reps full time, was against the 49ers, and he had 2 touchdowns. So he kind of came out swinging hard, and sure enough, he earned his spot as running back 1. We ended up trading Cam Akers, and he has overperformed this season, and he's missed 4 games, which is what's so crazy about what
Mhm.
Kyron has done. Is he was on IR, and he's second in the league in rushing, just behind your guy CMC, and he missed 4 games. So I'm always kind of lamenting the fact that he got hurt. Like, what could he have done if he just wouldn't have
Yeah.
gotten hurt? But yeah, so he definitely turned out. Puka was more of just kind of a gut feeling. I can't pretend like I had any type of inside knowledge about what Puka Nacua was going to be when I gave that prediction. I just, had heard that they had liked him in training camp and that they were getting him involved, but nobody knew. I mean, that he would end up having, the season that he's had. I mean, he's a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And probably will go to Stroud, so I don't know that he'll win, but he's up there. He's broken all the rookie records. He's going to try to break the receiving yards record against you guys. We'll see if he's able to pull it off. Week 18, he needs 29 yards, so it's very possible when he's putting up 100+ yard games. So hopefully it won't be easy, I don't think, against you guys, but I think that he's definitely going to try. They're not sitting him. So yeah, he's had just a really incredible season, which has helped because Cooper Kupp has kind of been off and on injury wise. He was also out part of the season, so Puka Nacua was our wide receiver 1, as a rookie for a while. And then defensively, Byron Young, yeah, quietly, having a good season for a while, was up there, leading the league, I believe, in rookie sacks, which is now being led by another Ram. Kobe Turner is leading the league for rookies in sacks. So he is somebody that I definitely slept on. I was expecting that he'd contribute going into the season, but I had no idea. I think Byron Young was kind of the guy that we all thought would lead the rookies, and he's done a very good job. But Kobe Turner has really played well in his rookie season, so I give him a lot of credit there. But yeah, all 3 of those guys that you mentioned have been really huge for us in getting the Rams to the playoffs.
Yeah, you mentioned, Puka trying to pass that record in this game, and they had asked Charvarius Ward in his interview today about that, and he's like, we're not letting him break that record on us. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like that guy, like he already had a great game against us the first time
I know,
he
like
played
he's
us,
gonna get it. Like, what are we
yeah,
what are we even
that
saying
just
here,
seems
man?
like so easy for him to get, and
Yeah.
it's not like he needs 160 yards or something, it's like 29 yards or whatever. I'm like, I really think that he can get it, so please stop saying that.
You never know. I mean, I think that, the way that he probably wants to get it is definitely in a challenge. I definitely think that he's probably, it will taste that much sweeter to be going against a good 49er secondary in division rival. So yeah, and in week 18, it's the last game to get it. So we'll see. Like I said, he's starting. A lot of people thought that he wouldn't be, but the Rams kind of showed their hand. They wanted him to get the record by having him suit up on Sunday. So we'll see. I hope he gets it. 29 yards. Maybe it'll just take a play. Maybe he'll do it in one play and then they'll pull him. We'll see.
I think it's a cool gesture that they're trying to do that for him too, because he's had an awesome season, and that would just be a really great way to end it. I gotta admit, and I'm not too proud to say this, but I love what the Rams are doing. Like the just drafting, they've been nailing the draft these last few years. We went into the season, and I know in week 2, it was very early in the season, even you kind of felt like, man, like we're just going to see what happens this year, and I think they just blew the doors off of everyone's expectations, right? And again, I think it goes back to the draft. I think it goes back to Sean McVay, the coaching. Of course, having Matthew Stafford definitely helps, and he looks way healthier this season than he did last year. What else do you think has kind of contributed to this like turnaround that no one could have expected? Like, you guys are squeezing the juice out of this roster so well, and I mean, it's kind of transformed your whole season. I don't think at the beginning you would have expected that, they'd make the playoffs, right?
Funny enough, and I did, because of the way the NFC is, and the NFC is significantly weaker than the AFC, I think, like kind of like in a big way. And so I my prediction for the Rams was they would be a wild card, but I did not like it wasn't like I stood firm in that, I have to admit. I had that as my prediction. I stood on it, but in the back of my mind I'm like this could end very badly because kind of like you mentioned earlier, like we have such a young roster and I think it was so dependent on how they played. Like so much of our season has been dependent on these young guys and they could either sink or swim and I think they've all swam. You got guys like Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua leading our offense. When Kyron Williams hasn't been out there, our team has not won very many games. When he was hurt, I think we won one game and it just wasn't going well. So it's kind of indicated that we needed these guys to perform for us and they showed up in a way that none of us fans could have ever, expected, and maybe not even the team. So, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do kind of with the draft and these young guys. And then I think some of it is just stuff that you can't, predict. Yes, I've been a huge Kyron Williams fan, but I didn't, know that he was going to, be second in the league in rushing yards and have, the 12, 13 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns that he has now. So it's taken, Puka Nacua. I did not think that the guy we drafted in the 5th round was gonna, put up 1,000+ yard receiving season and, lead the league and be breaking rookie records. I honestly can say that I didn't foresee that coming. So I think that a lot of it is just, you have kind of the perfect, combination with some of these guys and with the quarterback like Stafford, who I think is very experienced and he knows how to get the most out of young guys. So yeah, and then I think Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay has to, get a lot of credit in that situation. I mean, after what the team went through last year, I mean, 5 weeks in, it pretty much was burnt to the ground and it just was really tough. And he made the decision to come back and, he came back with not as many assets as he had, honestly, in the past 2 years, in theory. And, he's really done a good job. Raheem Morris has done a good job with this really young defense, which at times can be scary to watch. That they're still young. They've been playing really well, but they're kind of figuring out, they're going through growing pains. But they've also been a pleasant surprise as well. So, yeah, I think it was just kind of the perfect storm of everything kind of going our way. And finding those diamonds in the rough that end up coming through for us.
Yeah, when we had talked to you in, before week 2, you had said that you could see them being an 8-9, 9-8 team. So, I mean, that's pretty much exactly where you're sitting at right now, depending obviously how this last game goes. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah, 8-9, 9-8 is kind of where I had them. So, my co-host I think had them at 10-7, but a lot of people had them at like 4 wins. I mean, going into the season, there was even our own fan base was just kind of like, we should tank, we should get rid of everybody, we should tank for Caleb Williams. We're in LA, a lot of USC fans are also Rams fans. So it was kind of a big divide, honestly, in our fan base of, what do you do here? Do you tear it apart and tank? Do you try and get the best out of everybody and maybe become a wild card, playoff team, which is what they ended up doing. But it was very contentious, I could say, as a Rams fans amongst the fan base, going into the season of everybody had a very strong opinion of what they wanted the Rams to do. So.
Well, the Rams seem pretty content with being either the 6th or the 7th seed going into the wild card round. They're going to be resting a few players. It feels like both teams kind of holding some things close to the vest a little bit. I think because we kind of know in the back of our minds that it's possible these two teams play if the Rams make it to the divisional round. Given that, how confident would you feel in that kind of matchup with this team at this point?
I mean, I think, listen, I'm a firm believer that in the playoffs, anything can happen. I think we've seen it over and over. So I would never, if there was a team that the Rams beat in the regular season and we saw them in the playoffs, that would not matter to me personally. And I think that this is a very good rivalry. I think that the regular season, the 49ers have our number. I mean, they have, in the Shanahan McVay era in the playoffs, the Rams won, in the NFC Championship. So I would be, listen, I think that the 49ers are not a team that I would be thrilled to face in the playoffs. Honestly, I think you guys are the number one seed for a reason. You guys have been playing very well. You have a very talented team. I would, if I had it my way, I wouldn't face the 49ers. But at the end of the day, I think just being here and taking it a game at a time is where I'm at with the Rams. And I was not surprised by McVay's, kind of comments. I don't know, kind of like you alluded to, he came out and was like, I think it's in our team's best interest to not play for seeding. I think we're going to sit some of these guys. I think we're going to focus on staying healthy. I agreed with that decision. A lot of Rams fans didn't. A lot of Rams fans really want to be the 6th seed over the 7th seed because of how that could shake out. I would personally like to avoid injuries, just knowing how bad that's plagued us the past couple of years. I would be okay being the 6th or 7th seed. I think that I would rather go into the game with a fully healthy team than maybe get the 6th seed, but be missing a couple guys that really contributed. So we'll see. We're still sitting some guys. I mean, Stafford, Williams, Aaron Donald, Cup, that type of thing. But as the game goes on, regardless if the Rams are winning or losing, I won't be surprised if they still go ahead and just start pulling starters, just to not put the risk of, getting a major injury in the fourth quarter at hand.
Yeah, I kind of have two things, kind of connected to that. One is how important, as a fan, as a Rams fan, as a Rams fan base, like how important is it to win this regular season game against the 49ers? Because like you said, the 49ers do own the Rams in the regular season. Does it matter? Does it matter to you guys at all? Do you guys want the bragging rights to finally, okay, we're done. They don't own us. They're not sweeping us again another season. Where are you at with it? Do you guys care at all?
I think it depends on who you ask. I think that most of us are more we kind of just would rather nobody get hurt. And we're not really looking at this game as we're kind of looking past this game, which is usually not the right mindset to have.
Right.
I think right now, though, now that we've clinched a playoff spot, it's all right, let's make sure that we just stay healthy and we at least get to the playoff game and haven't beaten ourselves before we get there. But yeah, I definitely think that it would be, fun to beat the 49ers. This is obviously not a game, though, where it's you guys are at full strength and we're at full strength.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of a little different. Not that it doesn't count, but it's not as satisfying, I would say. I think, to get a win in this situation, I think that, most fans would rather both of us be at full strength and go head to head that way. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think it just depends who you ask. I think me personally, it would always be fun, to get the win over the 49ers. But I understand that this is not a normal situation. I mean, we've got Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz out there. And, the second string. Yeah, the second string team. So there is a little bit of an asterisk there, I would say. But I mean, a win is a win, in the National Football League. So definitely will be celebrating with a win. Will be sting a little if it's a loss, but then the playoffs are coming up, so much bigger ahead.
Yeah, that's what I had told Steph before you joined us, is I know that obviously, like you said, Purdy's sitting and CMC is not going to be playing and whatever, but I don't care about none of that. I want to go in and beat you guys. It's I don't want, like you said, it's going to have a little asterisk, but at the end of the day, in 3, 4, 5 years, when we're still talking about if the streak's going, what happened, especially what happened with the McVay and Shanahan era, comparing that, it's not going to matter then, oh, starters were rested during this game. No, it's going to matter, did we win or did we lose, and so I want that streak to continue. Obviously, we know what happened the last time that we met you guys, for 3 games, and you guys beat us when it mattered. But, kind of just wrapping up into that, what you had been talking about, answering Steph's question. And that is, not Okay, so if you don't want to see the 49ers, like I don't necessarily want to see the Rams in the playoffs either, to be honest. But what team, especially obviously this first round, the 49ers aren't a part of it. So what team are you looking to, like what team would you want to match up against? Do you want it with the whole Stafford and the Lions, him going back, like dealing with that whole thing, and the connection obviously you have with, what's his name? The quarterback over there. Oh my God.
Goff.
Yeah, Goff. That whole connection. Do you want that, or what matchup are you looking forward to?
I think it's gonna come down to either the Cowboys or the Lions. Like most likely yeah, I believe those are the only two as of now that we could face. There might be another team that I'm blanking on, but I think out of those two, I would prefer to play the Lions. I think the Lions have been a very good team. They're definitely, I think, a little bit underrated, but just the way they've been playing lately and the way the Cowboys have been playing lately, I think I would rather face Detroit than I would Dallas. And I also think the storyline is there. Stafford and Goff, they were traded for each other. We also gave up first round picks for Stafford to Detroit. And so I think, Stafford hasn't been back to Detroit, I don't believe, to play since he's been traded. So, he was there for so long. So I think that would just be a story, and I think it would be dramatic. So I think that would be fun to just watch that matchup between Stafford and Goff, who obviously, I don't know if they would call it a rivalry, but there has to be something there. Like they were traded for each other, and each team, wanted a different quarterback. So, and I think more so it would be a revenge game for Goff. I think Stafford kind of had wanted out of Detroit at that point. So I think Goff has the chip on his shoulder there, but nevertheless, I think it would be a fun matchup to watch. Dallas, I feel good about the Rams versus either of those teams, to be honest. However, Dallas just to me right now seems a little scarier than Detroit. I think, yeah, I don't know, but I do feel good about the Rams no matter who they play, which is why I'm of the opinion that I'm not so concerned with the 6th or 7th seed because I think the Rams are really hot right now. But anything could happen. I mean, it's the playoffs. I mean, anything could happen.
Well, I think we know the script writer is going to make sure that the Rams and the Lions play, because that's a great storyline. And I think it's so interesting that like both teams have been successful in their own ways since that trade has happened. Of course, the Rams a little more glorious because they got the Super Bowl. But Alexis, I want to ask you about one game that the Rams played a few weeks ago. And we had similar opponents, the Baltimore Ravens. Both games went, very differently for, each respective team. So when you watched the 49ers play against the Ravens, was there anything you were thinking like, why are they not doing this? Or like they could have probably done this because we did that? Or like, what was kind of going through your head?
Well, it made me feel good about playing the 49ers in a way because I thought we took this team to overtime and we lost off. I mean, a loss is a loss. I'm not going to blame the refs for anything, but there was that controversial block in the back call in overtime that kind of cost us in Baltimore. But no, I think when I didn't really get to watch as much as that matchup as I wanted to. But I just was more so thinking like, damn, the Ravens are good. I mean, that was more like what and I was, thankful that we somehow found a way, maybe they had an off day when they played us, but we also did, I thought held our own against them. But, I mean, I also thought the Ravens 49ers are probably the favorite for the Super Bowl matchup right now. I'm not sure if there's betting odds on that. I'm sure there is. And I think that would probably be the favorite. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, very different outcomes, two very different games. If I remember correctly, didn't he throw like a lot of interceptions possibly that game? Yeah. So, but
they were kind of fluky, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and listen, that happens. He's a young quarterback, and also like there's so many interceptions are such a weird stat line because I've watched it with Stafford where like he'll throw a pass that's deflected off of, a defender and somebody catches it and it's an interception. I'm sure that also happened in your guys' game. So yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens they're a very good team. And yeah, I mean, they're probably, I would say, my AFC favorite to make the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. So yeah, two very different outcomes. It was a little fun to like rib my 49ers friends on Twitter. I was like, we took them to overtime and like very nearly beat them. What's going on, guys? But it happens. I mean, every year there's, the Rams have certainly had those games too where they just lose but to a team that, they're pretty even with or maybe even better than, and then I've been embarrassed plenty by the Rams, and usually on primetime television. So
why does that happen, right? Like always on primetime.
It's
like our
always
team's
on
embarrassed us.
primetime.
Why does it happen?
I know. It's cursed. I don't know.
We have a question from the chat, John V. He wants to know if you would say that the O-line right now is the best of Sean McVay's career.
I would say statistically, maybe. I'd have to look into that. I think, yeah, that argument could be made. I would say the Super Bowl offensive line we had was pretty good. They had injury issues, but they were mostly healthy. If my memory serves me correctly, for the Super Bowl when we had Andrew Whitworth and Austin Corbett, that was a pretty good line. But, our offensive line this year, talk about, people like unexpected pleasant surprises. I mean, our offensive line was something that I was concerned about going into the season because, again, not a lot of experience, a lot of new guys. Was worried about how they would hold up, especially after the season last season when Stafford just got sacked all the time and it was just not good. I mean, he got hurt and knocked him out of the season. So, yeah, I mean, you had guys like Alaric Jackson, who we signed as like a UDFA. We traded for Kevin Dotson, who was like a second string guard in Pittsburgh. Started for a while there, I think, and then ended up being a backup for them. So we traded for Kevin Dotson, who is statistically like one of the best guards in the league, I think, according to PFF as of a couple weeks ago. Havenstein is older, but he's been holding down, the right tackle position. So just guys that, our rookie, Steve Avila, out of TCU, playing very, very well. So, it was one of those things where, I didn't think they were going to be bad going into the season, but I didn't think they would be as solid as they are, and that has been good. So, yeah, I mean, statistically, they might be the best of Sean McVay's career.
Now, both teams have some weaknesses. What would you say is like the Rams' biggest weakness right now?
Secondary. Okay. I'd say the secondary, they've had, they're very young and they've had games where they are just lights out and they play well. They've had other games where they just look really confused. And it always seems to happen for the Rams in like the fourth quarter. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's coincidental. I don't know if it's a mindset thing. We have Akello Witherspoon at corner, who's kind of a veteran in the league, and he's by far been our best guy in the secondary. But then there's guys like Darion Kendrick, who's really young, Kobe Durant, who's really young. Darion Kendrick is like always committing like penalties, which has been frustrating to watch. And so our safeties, Jordan Fuller's been pretty good. And Jim Everett, I see in the comments. What's up, Jim? Been pretty good. John Johnson, he actually was a Ram a long time ago. Then we picked him up again as a free agent. So they've all been had moments where they're good, but there have been moments in the game where there's lapses in coverage and like communication. So there's a couple times when you're watching the Rams where you'll see like a wide receiver open and like run for 50 yards for a touchdown, or you'll see something happen where like Jordan Fuller, our safety, does not he'll like jump a route and then it's just another easy pass to receiver, and then you can see them looking around going like, who was supposed to do that? And so that's kind of been frustrating. So I would say that like, with the team, like the 49ers tomorrow, I'm not going to be surprised if they try to confuse our secondary. That seems to be a weakness for the Rams. And then other than that, I would say, maybe the bend don't break defense. I actually think it's been working pretty well, but there's a couple teams, like if you guys had CMC out there tomorrow, I would be more concerned, where I think, the hit or miss. But overall, I've been very impressed with our defense. But I would say, like, the secondary, I'd say I think the 49ers are going to try to expose that.
Yeah.
We know very well Witherspoon, so that's why you see the chat going crazy about Witherspoon because we drafted him and he kind of looked like he was going to be good. Like he had, like looked promising at the beginning, but it was like he would get beat and then would get in his head. And like, I don't know if he would then get in his head and kind of, it was a mixture of that and then get in Kyle's doghouse at the same time. But it was like, he couldn't come back from that. Like it was, like you could just see he just looked defeated, like there was like it didn't matter how well he ever got on that field and played again, he was never going to get out of whatever mind
like
and like I don't know what it was. So like he definitely needed like to go somewhere else. And like he's kind of done like hit or miss like around, but yeah, that's kind of the story with Witherspoon. So
Yeah, I understand that. But yeah, I definitely he's like, and he's not even that like much like that old, but that's how young our secondary is, where he's like a very pronounced veteran on that secondary, along with John Johnson, who we drafted back in the day, and who's come back and played some safety for us where we've had some injuries. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think tomorrow would be a good chance. No one in our secondary is sitting, so I think it's good for them to have all the reps they can before the playoffs to kind of get on the same page, and maybe work out some kinks there.
I have one last question. So the 49ers do also have a former Ram and Sebastian Joseph Day they recently signed. I'm actually excited to see him get extra snaps on Sunday because last week he only played 11. And so are there any players that on the Ram side you're kind of excited to see get some extra snaps in this game?
Well, Sebastian Joseph Day, great pickup by you guys, by the way. Very good player. It hurt seeing him go there because we loved him so much in the Rams, and a lot of Rams fans were like hoping maybe he would come back or something like that. I would say so. Ronnie Rivers should be starting at running back with Kyron out. So I'm very excited to see what he can do. He's done very well when he comes in for Kyron. Kyron has probably 90% of our running back snaps, so we don't get to see Ronnie Rivers very often, but when we see him, I like what I see. So I'm excited to see him play a full game. Just, he's never had that kind of experience in the NFL before. It'll be, his first game starting, and he'll see a lot more reps than he ever sees. I'm sure that they'll also work in Royce Freeman and maybe rookie Zach Evans as well. I'm not sure how they'll do it, but yeah, Ronnie Rivers at running back is something to watch. I'm excited to see, what he can do. Sorry, my phone's over there and it's ringing. Let me think. Defensively, Desjuan Johnson at defensive tackle was Mr. Irrelevant in our drafts, which you guys are familiar with a Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Brock Purdy. Our Mr. Irrelevant, Desjuan Johnson from this year's defensive tackle. So he hasn't gotten as many reps because, you got Aaron Donald in there, then you got Kobe Turner, guys like Jonah Williams, some other guys, veteran guys in there, Bobby Brown. So I'm excited to see, what he can do because he's also a rookie who hasn't really gotten to play that much because we have kind of those big dominant guys at defensive tackle. So I'm excited to see him on the defensive side. So Ronnie Rivers, Desjuan Johnson, I'd say those are my two picks.
Nice.
I have 2 more questions for you, and then we'll let you get out of here. The first one is, obviously we talked about, we know, the starters, different starters are out. Some maybe only will play a quarter, some maybe will play a couple snaps, break records and be out, we don't know. But if you had to, be a fortune teller, tell the future, to win the game tomorrow, the Rams must do what?
They need to communicate. They need to have good chemistry in offense because, we got Carson Wentz going in there. who has not played at all for the Rams. He's only been with the Rams for like a few weeks, maybe a month now. So he's not gone in there with our team at all, other than obviously practice. So I think they need to be on the same page. It's going to be, it could be very rough to start out. Not everybody's Joe Flacco, who just can go out there with a brand new team and be considered a favorite for comeback player of the year. So I would say the Rams need to execute offensively. A lot of new guys in there, a new quarterback who's not had a lot of time with this offense. So I'd say they need to do that. And then I think they need to, I don't know if this will affect the game that much or not, but like I mentioned the secondary earlier, I would like to see the secondary be a little bit more on the same page. Again, I know like you guys mentioned going against the backups, but I still think it's good practice for them. Young team. Just would like to see a complete game out of them, which we've seen it as a Rams fan. I've seen that in some games throughout the season, but I'd like to see it more consistently. So I think that if they can do that, they can put together a complete game defensively to close out the season. And then if these backups on offense can execute and make the most of their time to shine, I think that the Rams have a really good shot. But as someone said in the chat, it's the battle of the backups, and we'll see, who's better. Someone also said Wentz always gives us problems. I did forget about this, but I saw this on Twitter when he was with Washington, I believe. I think had a very good game against the 49ers. So we'll see. He's with a whole new team now, so I don't know how much that matters, but I do know that he probably feels that he has a lot to prove, kind of the way his last few seasons have gone. So yeah, I would say just execute offensively and just put together a complete game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Final thing, obviously, this is looking ahead, but we don't know when we'll talk to you again. So, looking ahead to next season, are you expecting, well, I guess the off season, whichever. Are you expecting, going into this season, there was a lot of questions. Obviously, you talked earlier about McVay, whether he was going to come back or not. Obviously, we know Aaron Donald's getting up there in age. We talked about Stafford's injury and his questioning coming back, previously. Like, are you expecting, regardless of this season ends, for all of them to come back? Or would, if you guys won the Super Bowl, are you expecting, not many people to come back? Like, where are you kind of at? Like, where's the team standing as far as, those main guys, coming back for you guys?
I am very confident that McVay and Stafford will finish out Stafford's contract. So I do think that they will be back regardless. Aaron Donald, I'm not sure. I could very well see if they win a Super Bowl this year or, make it deep in the playoffs. I think that I could see him retiring. He's still dominating. I mean, he's in another Pro Bowl. He's put up really good numbers this year. I mean, he's Aaron Donald. He's, in my opinion, the best defensive tackle ever. One of the best defensive players ever. So, I think he's proved everything that he's needed to prove. And we've kind of seen from him this season take on a different role. He's been very outspoken about supporting the younger guys and really feeling, like he's been a mentor to a lot of these people. So the vibe that I get from him is he's very at peace with if he were to continue playing or he were to walk away. So I think that's probably just a decision that he's going to have to make when the season's over. But I'm pretty confident that McVay and Stafford will be back regardless of the outcome of this season.
I like it. That's good to know, because I love the whole, Shanahan, McVay, the rivalry now that's between the Rams and the 49ers. It seemed like for a while there, it's like either the Rams, were a shit team, so it didn't matter, or the 49ers were a shit team, so it didn't matter. And it's like, once we got both of these head coaches, I feel like, we've both, besides obviously a couple injury years, whatnot, but, like, it's been a good back and forth, I think, since they've been a part of a part of our team. So like I hope that can continue as long as I can. And they're both like, I love to see guys, they're both from the same coaching tree. Obviously, we know they're friends. To see them both do well, like I think it's awesome. Obviously, I don't want to see them do well for the Rams, and the same reason why I hate that Puka, somehow ended up on the Rams, because it's like I want to cheer for the kid so bad and he's so good, but then at the same time it's like, fuck, it's the Rams, so but like I love it, and it just makes things better, with the teams being good. So it's fun.
It's fun to watch.
Closing thoughts from both of you guys, and we'll all get out of here together. Alexis, definitely, I think if we meet up in the playoffs or deep down, we'll have to do this again. Next season as well, we're down to meet up and do this again. We had a lot of fun being able to talk Rams and 49ers with you. So again, thank you for coming on and joining us. Closing thoughts, ladies.
I'm just going to say that I am so glad that this week 18 game doesn't mean anything, because I did not want it to mean anything. Like, I was actually so nervous for this being a must-win game for the 49ers to clinch the 1 seed. Glad that that isn't a scenario. I'm sure, Alexis, you are also glad that, your team, some of the guys could get some rest before the playoffs. So I'm just happy. It's going to be like a preseason game kind of vibe. I just want both teams to have fun.
I am on the same page. It's way less stressful, going into week 18 with nothing on the line. I mean, yes, for the Rams 6 or 7 seed, which, in the end, it might mean something, it might not. The Rams approach is that they're going for health, which I agree. I think that just with recent seasons, it's just always better to be safe than sorry. But yeah, I mean, I as well, mid-season when the Rams, Kyren Williams got hurt and, things were kind of looking haywire, I thought it's going to come down to week 18 versus the Niners. I really thought it was. I was like, we were really hot, and then injuries happen, Kupp on IR, Williams on IR, and I was like, it is going to be week 18 against the Niners. But I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad that we ended up clinching regardless. Both of us, our teams are kind of in the same boat, a little different. You guys with the 1 seed, us with the wild card, but both have the playoffs to look forward to and preparing for that. So yeah, kind of like a preseason feel, like you said. It'll be fun. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where Carson Wentz was starting for the Rams. That crazy. Just so crazy. So yeah, it'll just be kind of like a fun little weird game, but also a rivalry game that we still both want to win, but just like very weird.
Yep. Well, glad you can join us for this show, and hopefully, even though I enjoy these episodes, hopefully we're not, talking in a couple weeks.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We very well could be. We might not. Have to see how it shakes out. Almost time.
Especially because that last time that, like we spoke about, the last time we had met for those 3 games, and the winner of that 3rd game went on to win the Super Bowl, so.
I know. I was at that game.
Oh, yeah?
I was at,
That's
the
awesome.
NFC Championship. Is wild. Yeah.
Shoot, I was too.
Oh, really?
Not as fond of memory.
Yeah. We have different memories of that day.
Yeah.
I can imagine. But yeah, we'll see. You never know. Could happen again.
All right, we're getting out of here, faithful. Me and Steph will be back next Thursday. Until then, everybody take care. Everybody stay safe. Everybody have a wonderful game day. And we're out of here.
Peace.